We do a lot of videos on making cheese around here, but the actual making of the cheese is only half the process. The second half, to get a very good cheese at the end, is what is called affinage. Hi, I'm Kristen from Hammock Haven Farm, and today we're going to talk about another French word, affinage, which basically means to finish, and it is how you finish up your cheese and age your cheese to get a really good final product. So let me show you some of the tips and tricks and methods I do to get a good finish on my cheese. In-home cheese making, most of us don't have a real cheese cave to maintain the humidity and the walk-in with all the wooden shelves and everything. And so it's very, very challenging to come up with an environment that cheese likes for aging. In fact, I would say this is probably one of the most challenging bits of home cheese making. I just have dreams of someday having a real cheese cave that I can walk in and humidity control and temperature control, but at this point in my life, that's just not a reality. So this is basically what we work with right here. And this is a wine fridge. Now, one of the advantages to a wine fridge over just a regular refrigerator is you can keep the temperature cooler. You see on this one, we've got two different zones, an upper zone and a lower zone, and I can keep the temperature as high as, I think 54 is the highest I can keep it in here. Yeah, as high as 54 degrees. Or 55, so yeah, I can make it a lot warmer than you can in your fridge. Now, there are things that they make for refrigerators to override the internal thermometer or thermostat and allow you to keep it warmer. And that reminds me, I was supposed to send somebody a link on that and I've completely forgotten. So I'm gonna have to look that up, and if I can find a link on one of those devices, I'll link it down in the description below. One of the challenges when it comes to using any type of refrigerator is humidity. Most cheeses want between an 80 and 95% humidity to age properly and not dry out. So there are a few ways that we combat that in here. The most easy way for beginners is going to be just to simply wax your cheese. This helps to hold your moisture in your cheese. It's not going to dry out. I mean, it will lose a little bit of moisture over time, but not like just leaving it in there with no protection on it. One thing that I do use to help keep my humidity up is I've got a little humidifier, and it just runs on a little USB, and I run this once or twice a day in here just to try to keep the humidity up. One of the small challenges with that is that it likes to build up ice on the cooling panel back here, which will melt and sometimes get me a little puddle of water back in this corner. This cheese actually fell victim to that. It got some of the water in there. This whole side got wet, and then when I tried to dry it back out, it cracked on me. So, like I said, challenges of home cheese making. Now you might wonder what my little wrappers are here. And this is one thing I've been experimenting with to keep my humidity higher. I have been taking bits of press and seal wrap and using them to open and close, leave a little gap for airflow, and let your cheese breathe, but still maintain moisture. I mean, if you feel this one, let me shut that off. If you feel this one here, it's still got a moisture to the rind on it. I mean, you can see it's drying in places, but it's got enough, I don't know, just humidity to it that it's just not drying the whole cheese out. I'm working on several kinds of cheeses now. I've got some natural rind cheeses, and that's basically what I'm doing inside those little ripening biomes, I'm calling them, with the press and seal wrap. I'm also working on some bloomy rind cheeses, a wash rind cheese, and something else. Oh yeah, the oil rubbed rind. So I'm going to go through each one of these step by step and kind of show you what I'm working on and how I'm trying to create the right environment for each one of these kind of cheeses. The first kind of cheese I want to talk about are the bloomy rinds, and these are going to be things like brie or your Valence, and to get the mold going on the rind, it needs a higher humidity and a bit of higher temperature. So I actually had somebody that was selling, she had a bakery and she was selling out these drink fridges. I was able to pick up 2 more of these wine fridges, beverage fridges. This little one I have been using just to keep the temperature even higher, and we had a power outage. I forgot to reset it. I actually had this warmer in here, but we had a power outage. So you see I've got these ripening boxes, and basically they're just Tupperware. The other one's a cupcake Tupperware, and these have been in here a few days now. Let me show you what we got going on. You can see they're starting to grow their mold on here, but they're not quite ready to be wrapped up and moved to a colder environment. In order to keep my humidity right, I put paper towels, dampen. This one's almost dry, which tells me that I need to moisten it again. See, there's no moisture built up in this box or on the lid, so my humidity is a little low in here. So I want to look at these and flip them. You see they've got like the little yeast change on the outside that makes kind of a yellow sticky texture that starts before the white mold starts to grow, and that gives it a good surface for those white molds to grow. So I'm gonna flip each one of these. This one here I coated in ash, and that's what the black is from. So it's coated in ash, and then the molds grow up through that. And then once I've got all of these flipped, I'm going to take the paper towels, this one's real dry, and moisten them and put them back into the boxes. And I want to leave the lids ajar on these boxes so that airflow can circulate. I don't want this wet paper towel to actually touch my cheese, but I want it to just raise the humidity in the environment here. So I'm going to carefully just drape it along the sides like this, and a little over the edge, and that helps to keep the lid from snapping down. Make sure they're not touching. And then I'll leave the lid just a little ajar like this. If you get too much moisture and not enough airflow in there, your cheese is going to become ammoniated, and it's going to smell and taste pretty bad. So it's pretty much a failure at that point. So this is really a balancing act of keeping the humidity right and the airflow right. So I check these at least once a day at this point. In another day or two, these are going to be ready to wrap up and move to a colder aging environment. And now when I say wrap up, I mean to wrap them up in special wrap. Let me show you. It's this white, plastic paper wraps. They've got a triple layer, like a perforated plastic, and then a little layer of paper inside, and then another layer of plastic. And this helps to keep the humidity right in the cheese and helps to keep the white mold from growing too much out of control as they, I'm going to drop that again, as they continue to age. So these are from cheesemaking.com. Now down here, I still have a bunch of beverages in this fridge, but this is just from Amazon, and I can post a link to something similar down below. This tells me my humidity and my temperature in this fridge, because I don't have an actual digital temperature on this fridge. You see that the humidity just in the fridge itself is way too low, which is why, again, I've got the ripening boxes. This one right here is just a shoe box. You can get these from $1 at the dollar store. And this is a blue cheese. And again, I've got my paper towels. You see these have dried out, so I need to get these wet again. I'm gonna flip my cheese. You see all the beautiful blue growing on it. And this is a little where it got a little more humid on the bottom. It started to grow some of this this orange mold. But this feels a little bit dry to me now, so let me get these wet and put back in here. And this is something you need to do every day or two to keep an eye on these cheeses. That other cheese was Stilton style cheese. This is a bleu d'Avignon style cheese. It is a French style blue cheese. And this one I made before the Stilton, but in the first step it's kept at a much lower temperature, so it's taken quite a bit longer for the blue molds to start growing. And this one I feel like the humidity's a little better. These are still moist. I'm gonna go moisten them again and put them in there. And you can see that this one, I've already punched holes in the cheese, and that's to allow airflow to get into the middle to allow the blue growth to go into the middle of the cheese. Back to my other fridge in here, let's go over some of these natural rind or just mold rind cheeses I've got in here. Now you'll notice that I just wash my hands real well because I don't want to spread blue from that in here, because that Roquefort culture I heard can spread pretty good, and I might just have everything blue in here if I'm not careful. So let me find one that's starting to grow some stuff a little better. Here's one back here. And this is a cachota style. And I put a bit of geotrichum mold into some brine and rubbed it at the end. And so you can see it's growing like this white dust is that geotrichum culture. And then it's got just a couple, like I really hate this blue-green mold here, and it's starting to grow some other little colonies. So every couple of days, I'll just take a paper towel over the sink and just rub it down and rub those off of there, and that just smooths all that mold and evens it all out on the surface. And this one's only a few weeks old, so it's gonna continue to grow more of this mold and thicker on the outside of it over time. Okay, so I just went and took a paper towel and just rubbed it down. I got those little colonies of the blue-green that I can't stand out of there. And I'm just gonna flip it and put it back in its little biome here. Chase, I just can't remember which way they were flipped at all since I'm talking. So stick that back in there. I've been writing the dates and what kind of cheese it is on there. And these just check every couple of days and see how they're doing. Now this one here is a little different. I need to get this one in a biome. I just put it in this cave yesterday, and it is a Monterey Jack that I did in the Manchego style mold. And I rubbed this one with olive oil and paprika, and it was still real moist, so I didn't want to put it right into its own little habitat. So let's go get it a habitat now so it doesn't dry out anymore. And what I'll do with this one is just kind of keep an eye on it, and I'll continue to rub it with oil every week or two if I see anything coming up and growing on it, and that'll help create like a nice smooth natural rind on here. I'm just flipping stuff and looking it over. And the wax cheeses in here, I flip every week or so. I've got the humidifier on. And the last cheese in here that I want to talk about is I'm doing a little washed rind cheese. So I've got this one on a board and in its little habitat here. And you see all that old orange mold? I keep wanting to say old every time I try to say orange mold. Coming up on here. This is from washing it every day with brine solution. Let me go show you how that's done. So this is one that I've been washing every day with this solution I made, and I just keep it in the refrigerator. It's some bacterial bee linens, a little geotrichum mold, a light salt brine solution. And I just take a paper towel, and I want to be able to reuse my solution, so I pour a little bit on a paper towel every day. That way I'm not contaminating my solution. And just rub top and bottom and the sides of my cheese. Just like that. Give it a flip. Then we're gonna put it back in the cave. You can see on my paper towel how it's growing that orange mold. It's getting a little stinky, but it's soft, and it should be changing the consistency of the paste inside. It should be softening it and starting to kind of eat through it, make it a little, I don't know, oozy. So back in the cave with her. Last step in my daily cave care is to come down to the basement refrigerator, which you see is just for like beer and watermelons, and flip all of my little bloomy rind ones that are already, see them in here, that are already packaged. These are from 8.2. And so this refrigerator's kept at 42 degrees. And I just go through every day and give all these a flip. Check the humidity on these. These are still plenty damp, so I'm not going to worry about wetting those again. Just kind of want to make sure there's some airflow. And I've got another box of them down here next to my onions. And these are from, ooh, I didn't date that one, 7/23. So in a week or so, I'll check these and see how they're coming along. So in a week or so, I'm just kind of feeling, and they're not getting real soft through yet, but I'll check and see how these are doing. I'll probably cut into one and see what we've got going on. On some of these natural rind ones, before I'm ready to package them to sell, especially if they've grown a pretty thick layer of molds on there, I've got a little nail brush, especially just for rubbing off those rinds, and I will hold it over the sink and just kind of get down to a pretty surface on those that go a little crazy. Another thing I've done before, instead of just using the press and seal wrap, and I've had good success with it, is to use parchment paper and then wrap that in aluminum foil to keep the humidity in. And I've made some really beautiful natural rinds with that. I do like this because I can see what's going on and they take up a little less room than the other method. I hope this helps you with aging your cheeses at home. It's something that I'm really working hard on as the next step to improving my cheese game. As always, thank y'all for watching. Please take the time to like, share, and subscribe.